Above the room of furs and silk, her eyes were full of devilry, her fingertips were soft as milk. Above the bed a crest was set, gold and sapphire coronet. She was of noble birth, and best, a Jewess. Lips enticed my lips to taste. I held her breast, fresh from the crucifying Christ. It seemed her thighs were hot with blood, sucked from the bastard Son of God. Saw his broken body hang, sweating and bleeding on the cross. I heard his curses chant and clang, sped upon his reeking corse. He licked the spear, my feet were shot. The iron isn't kicked, my God. Such frightful fancies dim my eyes. I can remember how his side lay open for a lover's prize. And violate the crucified. Hell shrieks with impious laugh, they sing a man do chant. Hell hails me, King. So runs my dream. But what am I? A lover by a Jewess's bed. A lover waiting wistfully for his desires to be fed. His only lust, a lover's bliss, and with no language but a kiss. In her loose lusts I found again the memory of the dream gone by. Kisses waken in my brain the picture of that infamy. The low dark hill, storm, star, that lit my bestial lupanar. Breasts of Golgotha to me, her lips, his dripping hands and feet, her secret, cinctured armory. Pleasure's seams, how utter sweet, the gaping spear, wound in his side, wherein I smote the crucified. Come, night, deep shadows, only let one incense flame burn red, and lo, we gild the golden coronet, gleam on her nude lewd hips and glow. On hours of weariless desire, a bastard and infernal flame. Smite me, my fiend fair whore, nor spare my raging hips, but wake again the old desires ere I forbear. Joy more intense from cruel pain. They say he hoped his crown fixed by his delirious crucifix. Yes, spare me not, red-lipped, low-browed, large-featured animal I love. Prolong the orgy, shriek aloud, drunk in vehemence above, all violence more than corribant. To our Achaean god, absinthe. Ah, thy red lips and its green glint, its wavy splendor, and the dance thy belly weaves, triple hint of hell and Algiers and France. Ah, Judas love, this flask will drain, kiss hard, and so to bed again. Elster Crowley, 1898. They draw the shining god into the land in nets, and build a fire to the Lord of Fire. Cry in hallowed words, even the dreadful curse. Amri, Maratsa, Maratsa, Atman, Deona, Astatsa, Maratsa, Maritza, Maran. Oh, look who it is, it's CM. Oh, did somebody just rip a fart? It's the mathematician. Hey, mathematician, I bet you can't even do 1 divided by 0. That's what Jeffrey Epstein was talking about with Steve Bannon. Okay, this is called Aleister Crowley and the Fish. The Fish, which here makes its debut in print, was a novel commenced by Aleister Crowley at a particularly turbulent point of an already tumultuous life. Given the circumstances, it is hardly surprising that The Fish was never completed. A brief summary of the salient facts of the last months of 1920 on 14th of October. Crowley's daughter Anne Leah Poupie died. The record of the Abbey of Thelema confirms that Crowley grieved intensely. Poupie's mother, Leah Hersig, an Astrel, the Scarlet Woman, who was 3 months pregnant, miscarried 6 days after the death. Hersig insisted that the jealousy and ill will of Nineti Shumway, Nifra, Soror, Cyprus, another of the Abbey who was 8 months pregnant with Crowley's daughter Astarte Lulu Panthea, had caused both tragedies. Crowley concurred and formally expelled Shumway from the Abbey on 5th of November. She would return in good graces with daughter early the following year. On 21st November, Cecil Frederick Russell Frater Genestai, who had first met Crowley in New York in 1918, arrived at the Abbey. Russell was at that point in the infant of the AA, Astrum Argentea master magician of the Order Templi Orientis, the free mystical and magical society founded by Crowley in 1907. The latter a magical fidelity with Masonic elements, of which Crowley was supreme holy king of Ireland, Iona, and all the Britons. He became the worldwide outer head of the order in 1922. Russell would prove to be one of Crowley's most gifted and recalcitrant disciples. On 27th November, Crowley sought oracles from Fatima, the Yi King, and the Tarot to guide him in the fashioning of the Cephalodium working, which took its name from the mighty rock of Cephalodium, which lay to the north of the Sicilian town of Cephalo. Were the abbey a modest, single-story house whitewashed without efflorescently muraled by Crowley within was located. On 1st of December, Wednesday, the day of Mercury, Crowley, Hersig, and Russell ceremonially affixed the signatures to the oath of the working after a banquet of fish and yellow wine. The menu was chosen because of its suitability for the dominantly mercurial nature of the Cephalodian working. Fish in particular matched the mood in the time of Crowley the Magus of the AA, as Crowley explained in Troop 7, his compendium of magical and mystical symbolism. All fish are sacred to Mercury because of the swiftness, the cold-bloodedness, the gleaming white or iridescent colors which are characteristic of the scales, and to some extent to the method of reproduction. In the book of the Cephalodian working, Crowley describes his inward response when taluted Mercury was invoked in the great magical circle by Fracta Genestai on 27th November 1920. This was typically manifested in the mind of the beast like lines of Mary, Freya, Icy, without a heart, the light of the night, taking of the source respect to the beast of the Great Star. His point to make the great operation of the right, the Mary of the Cephalodian workings to search for the Lord, and the Jesus of the tradition, to complete the command to publish, was commanded of the Lord. Drawn to represent the prime pentacle of the working was Atu 16, the House of God. In the Book of Thoth, 1944, commentary on the Tarot, and specifically on Crowley's own Tarot designs, as executed by Freddie Harris, Crowley stated it may be taken as the preface to Atu 20, the Last Judgment, coming of a new eon. The bottom part of the card therefore showed the destruction of the old establishment eon by lightning, flames, engines of war. Consideration of these remarks should assist the reader in interpreting chapter 7 of the Fish, the Hill, in which the blasting of the old Tower of Jesus, Tereday, is symbolically represented by the lightning destruction of a tree, of which only the stump remains in a Golgotha-like setting. It may also be helpful to recall that according to certain Christian legends, the cross on which Jesus was crucified was fashioned from wood, from the tree of life in the Garden of Eden. It may be that the two trees that continue to flourish, albeit with acrid fruit at Crowley's Golgotha, typify the trees of life and of the knowledge of good and evil. Precursor symbols of the salvation and gnosis once promised by the blessed tree of the cross, the stump of which representing Egyptian and other sources of divine wisdom still intact. Resting the Christ of the old Eon was then the primary purpose of the fish. This will be evident to any attentive reader. Bearing this in mind, it becomes possible to see the fish as more than a creative diversion in the midst of the magical working devoted to the book of the law and its comment. On the contrary, resting the Christ of the old Eon was then the primary purpose of the fish. The comment right, this will be evident to any attentive reader. Bearing this in mind, it becomes possible to see as more than. Consider, for example, the following new comment to Cap I-49. This verse declares the old formula of magic, the Osiris, Adonis, Jesus, Marsyas, Dionysus, Attis, etc. Formula of the dying god is no longer efficacious. It rested on the ignorant belief that the sun died every day, every year, and that its resurrection was a miracle. The formula of the new Eon recognizes Horus, the child crowned and conquering as God. We are all members of the body of God, the sun, and about our system is the ocean of space. The formula is then to be based upon these facts. Our evil, darkness, illusion, whatever one chooses to call it, is simply a phenomenon of accidental and temporary separateness. If you're walking in darkness, do not try to make the sun rise by self-sacrifice, but wait in confidence for the dawn, and enjoy the pleasures of the night meanwhile. Now read the sacred words on the hilt of the dagger, used by one of the dwarf henchmen of those who eat the baleful fish known as Nazarene. Dare not to stand upright, dare not to think no, dare not to use thy might, dare not to face thy foe, dare not to do thy will, dare not to love thy mate, dare might live thy fill, be feeble, fool of fate. Beneath, that's from chapter 4 of The Salesman. The surface, satirical tale of the fish. Crowley was waging the Atu-16 war with a vengeance. In chapter 5 analysis, the Christian sect of the Plymouth Brethren, in which Crowley was raised and in which his father Edward was active as a preacher and pamphleteer, is dismissed. A mysterious editor, who makes his one and only appearance in the novel at this point, as if Crowley could not bear the thought that the barb of his satire might not be felt here, as one of many fanatical sects fostered in supposedly tolerant Protestant countries. In the 9 chapters of The Fish that have survived, the major, indeed the obsessive, metaphor is that of the putrefying fish. All 4 of the members of the expedition to Abyssinia, who are otherwise quite different human types, shed visceral, violent disgust for the Nazarene. In 777, Crowley outlined the symbolism of the Hebrew letter Nun. A fish is that which lives and moves in the water, which is here a symbol of death. It therefore indicates the forces of Scorpio, generation through putrefaction. It is through the eating of the putrid fish, the Nazarene, that the wretched transformation of human souls is generated. And the ultimate goal of the expedition, at least at the point at which the fish breaks off, is to enter the pit, breeding grounds of the Nazarene, which name is spelled out in Hebrew begins with Nun, or Nun. As always with the Crowley text, the levels of symbolism to be traced and meditated upon are manifold. For example, in chapter 5, our narrator, the good and brave clergyman Harry Tolan, who has dared to taste of the Nazarene in the best spirit of objective research, the better to understand its nature, finds himself under its influence, angrily refusing to face the facts of life, started up at the intrusion of a thought about the meaning of fish. Ancient religions, as explained to me once by a contributor to the London Punchinello, who subsequently disgraced himself in an unspeakably loathsome piece of abomination. The meaning alluded to here may be that of Priapus, the Ithyphanic god whose counterparts include the half-fish, half-man, god figures, Dagon, and Oannes, worshipped respectively by the Philistines and the Babylonians. In the Egyptian myth of the mutilation of Osiris by his brother Set, the phallus of Osiris, the only bodily part of her husband and twin that Isis failed to recover was swallowed by a fish of the Nile. Alternatively, the fish, a symbol of the Yoni, or Mons Veneri, can be found in numerous ancient cultures. It is noteworthy that the Egyptians, apart from the goddess Hatmet, she who is before the fishes, and no deities in fish form. Deities. However, the fish was regarded by the Egyptians as sacred, and a painting in the tomb of Karakat at Deir el-Medina shows this, tending to the mummification of a fish. There are definite links between Anubis and Jesus. deemed the term Jesus Anubis occurs in Greco-Egyptian papyri. Anubis was responsible for the weighing of the hearts against the feather of mind, which has analogies with the Christian Last Judgment, guiding the soul in its journey to the paradise of Osiris, which is a further symbolical link with Jesus, who said, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Both Hermes and Mercury are also associated with the role of guide, which is invariably linked with the journey through the sky or between the worlds. Connection is thus suggested with the nuit of the Book of the Law. Such are a few of the symbolic meditative flights that may be stimulated with a sympathetic study of the fish. But enough of such fish tales. Let us now turn to the fish as a novel intended for our literary delectation. An intention that Crowley most certainly heard. C.F. Russell, of Frater Inesti, makes this point along with some others rather emphatically in his Znus is Znees, Memoirs of a Magician, 1970. You see, Crowley was first, last, and always an author. A literateur. With this always in his mind, is it any wonder his magic sometimes did not achieve his anticipated results? Never hunting the happy phrase, modeling the merriest metaphor, even while fucking, he was recording the opus in his mind rather than endeavoring to establish ekagrata to effect samadhi. Like a professional magician deceiving destiny with misdirection, not realizing fate was his own higher self. Russell and Crowley did have their differences, and Russell was particularly sensitive to Crowley's explicit charge in the book of Sephardian working that Russell was to blame for the failure of that working by virtue of having failed to initiate any Rashid ha-Gilgalim. That is, the initial turning or energizing of the spheres or chakras necessary to sexual magic. Russell in Znus is Znees has his own kind comments on Alice Crowley's sexual allure and so forth. But Russell is acute, I think, when he points to the literary ambitions that flamed within Crowley throughout his life. The furtherance of Thelema and the moral wreath of culture declaim were two possible motives in the writing of the fish. The third may have been the badly needed money that a commercial success could bring him. Crowley was eager enough to appeal to readers of popular fiction, as evidenced by the lively demi-monde plotting of The Diary of a Drug Fiend, 1922. In the case of the fish, a possible inspiration for Crowley's plotline may have come from the vogue for tales of lost civilizations that had been triggered by H. Rider Haggard and his classic novel, King Solomon's Mines. The staggering success of this book is reflected by the fact that it has remained continuously in print since the date of its first appearance. Going off to a strange continent in search of the lost race was not exclusive to Haggard and Africa, as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle proved with his novel, The Lost World. Set in the Amazon jungles in the very period in which Crowley was writing The Fish, Edgar Rice Burroughs, the creator of Tarzan, was commencing his own rise to fame with novels such as The Lost Continent, 1916. The search for ancient and hidden civilizations was in the air, and it is possible that Crowley, in search of a popular vehicle for Thelema, could not resist trying it out. A page of handwritten notes left by Crowley, see Appendix 1, the only surviving record of how Crowley intended to complete The Fish, indicates that after numerous harrowing adventures that claim the lives of Greed and Thornley, not to mention the timely aeronautical aid of rebellious light-bringing Lucifer, and a surreptitious diet of truth, will, and love, Lyle and Tone emerged victorious over the bottomless of Cree's Needham. When Crowley got on to complete the novel, it might have been a corker of a story. Why he did not see fit to do so remains unknown. The Fish was intended to be not only a page-turning adventure tale, but also a satire. The jibs at Christendom, which dominate the surviving chapters, are free-swinging and often clumsy body blows, but they do yield fresh insights into Crowley's attitude towards Christianity. The Fish was hardly Crowley's first polemic against that creed. In poetic works such as The Sword of Song, 1904, and Y.G. Wept, he attacked the philosophical absurdities and moral hypocrisies that he believed were entrenched in Christian dogma. In The Gospel According to St. Bernard Shaw, written in 1916 and first published posthumously in 1953, Crowley, drawing from The Golden Bough, researchers of J.G. Fraser sought to reduce Jesus to a fictional construct drawn from past dying gods of the Levant. Crowley could not bring himself to have done with his rage against the Christian faith, despite his own lies. In a sense, hypocrisies that he calls Christianity. That claim, as Sir Arthur Conan Doyle proved with his novel, The Lost World, set in the Amazon jungles in the very period in which Crowley was writing The Fish, Edgar Rice Burroughs, the creator of Tarzan, was commencing his own rise to fame with novels such as The Lost Continent, 1916. The search for ancient and hidden civilizations was in the air, and it is possible that Crowley, in search of a popular vehicle for Thelema, could not resist trying it out. A page of handwritten notes left by Crowley, see Appendix 1, the only surviving record of how Crowley intended to complete The Fish, indicates that after numerous harrowing adventures that claim the lives of Greed and Thornley, not to mention the timely aeronautical aid of rebellious light bringing Lucifer, and a surreptitious diet of truth, will, and love. Lyle and Tone emerged victorious over the bottomless pit of Cree's Needham. When Crowley got on to complete the novel, it might have been a corker of a story. Why he did not see fit to do so remains unknown. The Fish was intended to be not only a page-turning adventure tale, but also a satire. The jibs at Christendom, which dominate the surviving chapters, are free-swinging and often clumsy body blows, but they do yield fresh insights into Crowley's attitude towards Christianity. The Fish was hardly Crowley's first polemic against that creed. In poetic works such as The Sword of Song, 1904, and Why Jesus Wept, he attacked the philosophical absurdities and moral hypocrisies that he believed were entrenched in Christian dogma. In the Gospel according to St. Bernard Shaw, written in 1916 and first published posthumously in 1953, Crowley, drawing from the Golden Bow, researchers of J.G. Fraser sought to reduce Jesus to a fictional construct drawn from past dying gods of the Levant. Crowley could not bring himself to have done with his rage against the Christian faith, despite his own lines. In Ascension Day, the opening poem, The Sword of Song. No, on the other hand, the Buddha says, I'm surprised at you. How could a person accept my law and still use hatred? The sword means of ill, in truth's defense. Praise blind. Well, I guess Buddha's are right. Of course, these lines come prior to Crowley's 1904 reception of the Book of the Law, and it may be argued either that Crowley came to regard the Buddhist teaching as arrogant, or that Crowley could not finally abide by the teaching. In either case, the vehemence of Crowley's vitriol transcends the storyline of The Fish.
Okay, I'm going to continue reading from The Fish. This is The Fish by Aleister Crowley, page 22. Page 23. One must be careful not to fall into the same simplistic tendency as shown by those critics who assert that Crowley was a hater of Jesus Christ himself. As the previously quoted diary entry for 9th of May 1920 evidences, Crowley regarded Jesus as quite as suitable for invocation as any other divine being. But Crowley's fundamental attitude is best stated in his own words from Confessions. I did not hate God or Christ, but merely the God and Christ of the people whom I hated. It was only when the development of my logical faculties supplied the demonstration that the scriptures support the theology and practice of professing Christians that I was compelled to set myself in opposition to the Bible itself. It does not matter that the literature is something magnificent, and that in isolated passages the philosophy and ethics are admirable. The sum of the matter is that Judaism is a savage, and Christianity a fiendish superstition. Stylistically, The Fish is an intriguing but uneven work. There are marvelously detailed accounts of the flora and topography of this imagined Abyssinia, as well as excellent crafted dialogue set pieces. And while Crowley demonstrated in the diary of a stylistically, The Fish is an intriguing but uneven work, the marvelously detailed accounts of the flora and topography of this imagined Abyssinia, as well as excellently crafted dialogue set pieces. But at least part of The Fish was composed through dictation, and while Crowley demonstrated in the diary of a drug fiend that he was uncommonly gifted at talking a novel aloud, in The Fish, the long-windedness sometimes shows. Still, The Fish has decided virtues. The richness of its symbolical interplay has already been discussed. In addition, it should be recognized that Chapter 5, aptly titled Analysis, is as probing a study as Crowley ever wrote on what he believed to be the psychological consequences of Christian faith. Further, the refutation by Lyle in Chapter 9, The Life Pessimism of Green, is a fascinating attempt at rebuttal of the first of the Buddha's Four Noble Truths. As such, it is illustrative of the uniqueness of the spiritual emphasis offered by Thelema. As well, it shows the progression of Crowley's thought on this matter from the pre-Thelemic stance on his essay, Science and Buddhism, in 1903, in which the experiential aptness of the First Noble Truth is stated almost as a matter of fact. The Fish may be an overbroad satire, but it also has its depths. The four major characters in The Fish are stock types: Lyle, the sage white hunter straight out of Haggard; Tone, the naive yet devoted missionary; Thornley, the stiff-necked outsider Jew; Green, the scientific materialist and failed acolyte of Nietzsche and Darwin. Yet there is a bit of Crowley in each of them. Lyle is the Crowley of the days of Himalayan exploration. Tone, the Christian, shares Crowley's interest in drugs and scientific research, and also Crowley's conviction that humankind requires spiritual, not merely material, sustenance. Thornley is a shrewd and unremitting judge of human capacities, just as Crowley saw himself to be. In Green, for all his pessimism and despair, remains drawn to the vision of freedom and of universal harmony offered by Shelley in Prometheus Unbound. This was Crowley despite himself and despite certain cold-blooded and thus fish-like verses in Cap 3 of the Book of the Law, the chapter as to which Crowley confessed in the Book of the Cephalodian working a lingering repulsion. The Fish is rife with keys to the life and thought of Aleister Crowley. Therein lies its principal fascination. Not to mention that a newly published work by Crowley, albeit an unfinished one, is in itself a rare catch. Rescued from the waters of obscurity, may The Fish please the gentle reader. Lawrence Sutton. The Fish by Aleister Crowley. Okay, that's been a brief reading of the introduction of The Fish by Aleister Crowley. This is Canada John reading a book. This has been #WisdomNLP, Books and Wisdom.
This is ordained. Comment on that. I agree with you completely. While I share Roy's concern about the extreme bigots, I'm Surah 929. The reason why it was brought down. Let's listen to Ibn Kathir.
No, I want the verse. I want verse. I don't want
Surah 929. And if you just want to go off the verse, it explains it even better. Because it says, fight those who believe not in Allah, nor forbid what they forbid.
Let me get the verse. Wait.
Yeah, and then if you want to go to historical context, Ibn Kathir is going to admit the only reason Surah At-Tawbah, Ayah 29.
Yeah, that verse was talking about me.
Exactly. And Ibn Kathir says that the reason why Allah sent that down is because the people of the book rejected Muhammad as a prophet and they just wanted to follow their own. Okay, I'm gonna read. I have that. I have the tafsir right here.
Are you aware that in Islam we have a concept of treating the people of the book with respect and honor? And if anybody committed injustice toward somebody from Christianity or Judaism, the Prophet Muhammad upon him is gonna advocate for them on the day of judgment. Do you know that?
Okay, really,
Okay, so
hold on. If that's true, why don't you read your very first comment that you put in the chat? Like, why aren't you obeying your God? Like, the very first thing you said is, ain't no hate like Christian love.
no, like if you're supposed to wait, stop. Say Maria, just wait. No, stop. It doesn't matter. All you're gonna do if you're either gonna bring up a verse that's contradictory, or you have to realize that Surah At-Tawbah was one of the last revealed verses, so what you bring is gonna be abrogated. And so when 929, the Tafsir Ibn Kathir says, therefore, when the people of the scriptures disbelieve in Muhammad, they have no beneficial faith in any messenger. The messenger
after that,
they followed their religions because this confirmed their ideas, lusts, and the ways of their forefathers, not because they are Allah's law and religion. Had they been true believers in their religions, that faith would have been directed to them to Muhammad, because all prophets gave the good news of Muhammad. So this is why the verse was revealed, because we rejected Muhammad. Therefore Allah said, fight them. That's why, listen to the verse. The verse doesn't say, just like in 9:5 it says, they broke the treaty, therefore you fight them. It gave the reason. And this verse, it says, fight them because why? They believe not. And they don't forbid what Muhammad forbids. So Allah's literally telling you, you're fighting people because of their belief.
Bro, Quran is clear. Okay, Quran is clear that. Okay, say Maria, please. I mean, can you read the Quran in the original without translation? I read the Quran from the original. Arabic is my first language, so you cannot argue about Quran better than me. Because
as well.
So say Maria, I want you to address what I said. Surah 9:29 is literally what they use to show that you can fight people.
Somali, can you read it in Arabic?
If you reject. Yes, you want me to read it in Arabic?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
oh God.
قاتلوا الذين لا يؤمنون بالله ولا باليوم الآخر ولا
ولا يحرمون ما حرم الله.
حرم الله ورسوله ولا. Yeah, see, did I? Okay, I've been reading it right. All right.
Yeah, you're doing right.
Thanks, Tyler. High five.
You know this.
Will already told you though. Why you trying to like? And while Crowley demonstrated in the diary of Silas Hebron the fish is an intriguing and uneven work, the marvelously detailed accounts of the flora and topography of this imagined Abyssinia, as well as excellently crafted dialogue set pieces. But at least part of the fish was composed through dictation, and while Crowley demonstrated in the diary of a dropfiend that he was uncommonly gifted at talking a novel aloud, in the fish, the long-windedness sometimes shows. Still, the fish has decided virtues. The richness of its symbolic interplay has already been discussed. In addition, it should be recognized that Chapter 5, aptly titled Analysis, is as probing a study as Crowley ever wrote on what he believed to be the psychological consequences of Christian faith. Further, the refutation by in Chapter 9, the life pessimism of Green, is a fascinating attempt at rebuttal of the first of the Buddha's Four Noble Truths. As such, it is illustrative of the uniqueness of the spiritual emphasis offered by Feldman. As well, it shows the progression of Crowley's thought on this matter from the pre-Thelemic stance on his essay, Science and Buddhism, in 1903, in which the experiential agnes, the first noble truth, is is stated almost as a matter of fact. The fish may be an overbroad satire, but it has its depths. The four major characters in the fish are stock types: Lyle, the sage white hunter straight out of Haggard; Tone, the naive yet devoted missionary; Thornley, the stiff-necked outsider Jew; Green, the scientific materialist and failed acolyte of Nietzsche and Darwin. Yet there is a bit of color in each of them. Lyle is the